So good evening, and thank you so much for the team for inviting me to speak. I think speech is probably a bit of a grandiose title, and thank you for the introduction. I'm not sure my family would recognise me for that. It's usually mum and where's my from that. And it's from that point of view that I'm talking this evening. Shira said, I want you to tell us about your mum. I said, well, why? And she said, well, you've talked about your mum and what's happened to your mum. And so I did. I said yes. And mum's 84. And she's, I think if you were being polite, you'd call her a bit of a character. You know, I've inherited some of her characteristics, but mainly her English pear-shaped. And I have it on, I know, tragic really. But what I haven't got from her is many of the characteristics of my father, who's lovely. And I have it on reliable authority from my mother that I'm so like my bloody father, who is very wonderful. So she's 84 now, and she grew up during the war, and she grew up as an only child. She grew up playing with bombs. She grew up in Kent, where the bombers used to drop unused ordnance, and it was collected up, gathered into my grandfather's builder's yard by the air raid wardens, waiting for collection by the army, who would take them away and dispose of them. And as a child, she grew up with her friends, taking the incendiary bombs, putting them into the big builder's vices, and then hitting them with sledgehammers to watch the flames coming out the back. When the Germans started dropping anti-personnel bombs, luckily they had slightly shorter fins, so they'd sort through the pile going, we can hit that one, we can't hit that one, we can hit that one, we can't hit that one. So she's always had a fairly sort of fluid concept of health and safety as we grew up. She was an athlete, so she's very strong, she's very capable. Her major maternal failing was I've never learnt to shop, which has been a little bit difficult with my son's girlfriend, who wanted me to go shopping, and I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to do, but we muddled through. And she looked after her mother at home. So Gran came to live with us. Gran was single, she was divorced, and she developed motor neurone disease, a progressive muscular atrophy form of motor neurone disease, and she became progressively more paralysed. And Gran lived with us for 5 years before she ultimately died. And Mum looked after her at home with the care of district nurses. So district nurses would come in once a day initially, then twice, and then latterly 3 times a day. And the local GP, Dr. Livingston, would come in every 2 weeks, and when she was in hospital, if she got pneumonia, he would come in every week to visit her in hospital. And it was seamless. If there was a problem, he phoned Dr. Livingston. It was seamless. And as over the years, Mum's got more frail. She got arthritis, and she had a knee replacement. She's got a sense of humour. When she had her knee replacement, she said the funniest thing she'd ever seen was her living will being passed around as if it was ticking. She said she handed it to the student nurse, who handed it to the staff nurse, who handed it to sister, who handed it to the doctor, who tried to desperately get rid of it somewhere else because they didn't quite know what to do with it. She was asked her family history, and she told them that she'd had sort of 6 fatal coronaries in both bloodlines, and nobody had made it past 50. And the very nice SHO said, well, we'll do a cholesterol test. And she said, no. She said, if you do my cholesterol, I'll sue you. I've got no interest in my cholesterol at all. Okay, fine. Patient choice. So she's become increasingly frail, and for a very competent, very physically and intellectually able woman, she's become more and more dependent. She's gone through the system at a number of touch points, so she's gone into A&E from falling now. And it's become increasingly apparent to me that we do really well with the acts better, much better than we did when I was little, about the individual act of kindness. We're doing better with that. We're doing better with the smile, with the greeting, with saying hello. We don't always get it right, but we're doing a lot better. We get far fewer complaints about nasty staff than we did before, and I don't think that's just because patients aren't complaining. They will let us know, and we like to listen and we like to hear. But I think generally we do better. I don't know whether that's your general feeling too. So I think there's things to celebrate there. But even if you come across the odd person, the very unusual person who's not very nice, we come across systems that aren't kind. And we come across systems that aren't kind quite a lot. So the first time it sort of struck me was when I was with Mum, and clearly she'd had a knee replacement and she'd had a revision of her knee replacement because the patella was damaged. And about 5 weeks after the operation, she was putting on her socks on one leg and her Achilles tendon snapped in the other leg, and she went down and dehisced her right knee. So she instructs my father to call an ambulance, which he duly did. He probably wouldn't have done without instruction, to be fair. He asked for instructions, wise man. And so she calls me. I go to the A&E department, not here, and I'm sat there with my mother with a snapped Achilles and a dehisced right knee. Now, most of you will know probably an orthopaedic surgeon involved. Yeah, you don't need to be Hercule Poirot to work that one out. But we sat there for 4 hours waiting for an SHO in A&E, and then we sat there another hour waiting for an SHO in A&E to come and say, oh, you need an orthopod, and then we waited another 2 hours for the SHO in orthopaedics to come down. And that wasn't a kind system. And I know there's a process, but some of the processes are not kind. Mum has carried on for a bit, and then she started to get a little bit confused, and she dropped her sodium. And she dropped her sodium and got very bewildered and started to lose it, and that's not her at all. And she became virtually unrousable. And so we went into Stoke Mandeville, and she was treated kindly and sent home. It would be nice to have known that she was going home, but hey, rapid discharge process working well. Yeah. And then she was referred to endocrine clinic. Now, to get to Stoke Mandeville, my father has to get my extraordinarily wobbly and unsteady mother, you can't pick her up from the floor. She's too heavy to pick up from the floor, dense bones from all that athletics. And he's got to drive probably 40 minutes to Stoke Mandeville. It costs him £4 to park, and then he's got to get her from the car to wherever the clinic is. He's got to find the clinic. He's got the short term, so he's got, his memory isn't what it used to be, but he's very capable. But he finds the hospital navigation bewildering, as do most of us. It took me 3 years to find my own office in the new Path Farm building sometimes. So it's not easy. And then we go to endocrine clinic and they ask for blood tests, and so we get sent to another building and we wait and we have blood tests, and then we pile her into a wheelchair again and take her back, and then we're given a 24-hour urine box. Now, if you've ever seen a 24-hour urine container, try getting urine from a very immobile 84-year-old with stress incontinence. Yeah, fine. So you do that, it's a major logistic enterprise. You then get Dad to drive it 45 minutes, pay another £4 in the car park, hand it in, only to be phoned a day later to be told that nobody had dated it. Yeah. So the system isn't kind. We can do stuff about systems. We can do stuff about systems. When I was in the front porch the other day, there was Zach and his family. And Zach's got very severe, he's got severe cerebral palsy and he's in a semi-recumbent wheelchair. And his parents are with him and they're asking where to go to children's orthopaedic clinic where he gets reviewed every year. And getting him into the lift, because the lift will only take so many people, and he'll take up, he and his family and then me that day, we took up 3/4 of the lift. So we take him in, we take him up to the 5th floor where the outpatients was. And as we walk up to the desk, he's greeted with a smile, which is great. And then he's handed a form saying, go down to the 1st floor to X-ray. And you just think, it's not kind. It's not kind. And that's the sort of thing that we need to do something about next. You don't want to be bounced around the system. You don't want to be sent to and from different organisations. Mum fell again and fractured the orbital floor. So she fell into the floor. My father helpfully said, actually he didn't say, what are you doing down there this time? We just had the wet room. We had the bathroom done into a wet room so that she didn't have to go upstairs to shower. This time he was very pleased with the wet room. There she is, lying naked on the floor, bleeding profusely from the face. And he looked up and said, oh, he said we can use the new shower attachment to hose wash all that. It's like, yeah, fine. So we get her to hospital and yeah, so we get phoned back the following day to say actually we have missed the fracture, so we go back to have a CT. And then we get referred to the Radcliffe. The Radcliffe takes probably 2 hours to get to, and again, slightly more expensive parking at the Radcliffe. And then we get referred back to the orthoptist at Stoke Mandeville. So we're being bounced around the whole of sort of Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire, and the real kicker is that the GP can't see a lot of the investigations because they're in Hertfordshire, and the IT systems don't link up. So the system isn't kind. So what I would do is I would challenge you, when you see your patients in clinic, when you smile at them nicely, which you absolutely, have to do, you have to make people feel better. But think about the journey that they've come on to get to you. Think about the £35 that Zach's parents spent in a taxi to get to level 5 and then being sent down to level 1. Think about how you can look at the pathways that we produce and make them better. We know there are fantastic examples of making these pathways better. So the one-stop clinics have taken an enormous burden of stress and time from patients. We know that simple changes to technology that have involved national change of practice can make a massive difference in the pathway and in the experience of patients. The liquid-based cytology program in pathology, I would say that, I'm a pathologist, is probably the most undersold example of transformational change. So it was done with brushes, it was done with sort of spatulas, it's now done with brushes, and the inadequate rate has dropped enormously. So it's dropped from somewhere around 16% down to 1%. So for every 100 people, 15 are now longer not being recalled because their test was inadequate. And it's saved money and it's massively improved the programme. But we had to retrain every single cytology practitioner in the country to do that and change the technology, and yet it was done. So system change, whether it's ordering the X-ray in advance, whether it's making sure that the blood tests can be done there and then, whether it's national change, is all possible. And I would, again, urge you to go out and make patients' lives simpler, make the system kinder. Thank you.